What if I told you that right now, hidden beneath the noise of your thoughts and the weight of your daily struggles, lies a secret so profound it could make your soul remember who you truly are? A secret whispered in temples thousands of years ago, locked away from the unprepared and guarded by silence itself. For centuries, humanity has been taught to forget. From the moment you were born, society handed you labels, your name, your status, your role in this endless game, and slowly, you began to believe that was all you were. But deep inside, beyond the illusions of memory and identity, something waits. A vibration. A silent echo that has never stopped calling you back to your essence. And here's the forbidden truth. The ancients knew about this. Egypt's mystery schools, India's sages, Greece's Orphic philosophers all spoke of a hidden process. A technique so dangerous and liberating that it could unravel everything you thought you knew about yourself. They believed the soul is not born awake, it is born asleep. And the real journey of life is not about learning something new, but about remembering what you've always been. But this technique was never written openly. It wasn't taught in crowded marketplaces or displayed in sacred scrolls. It was whispered from master to disciple, behind temple doors, in silence and in darkness. Why? Because if revealed to the wrong person, it could destroy them. To the ego, this remembering feels like death. In this video, we're going to walk into those ancient chambers, uncover what Thoth and the great initiates guarded for centuries, and reveal how this forbidden technique works, not as abstract theory, but as a living experience you can awaken in your own life. By the end, you'll see why remembering this hidden truth makes you untouchable, unshackable, and free from the illusions that have ruled you for so long. So, take a breath and prepare yourself. Because once you hear this, there is no going back. To understand Thoth's forbidden technique, we must step back into the shadows of time, into civilizations where wisdom was not written in books, but etched into stone, whispered in chants, and hidden behind symbols only the initiated could decode. In ancient Egypt, Thoth was not merely a deity of scribes and writing. He was the keeper of hidden knowledge, the architect of the soul's remembrance. The emerald tablets attributed to him spoke of secrets that bridged heaven and earth, declaring that man is both mortal and divine, and that his true essence is locked beneath layers of illusion. But the Thoth's greatest teachings were never written in public texts. They were transmitted in silence, within the inner chambers of temples like Luxor and Karnak. The unprepared would hear nothing. Only those who had cleansed their hearts could endure the silence where truth revealed itself. Meanwhile, in India, the sages of the Upanishads spoke of Maya, the great illusion. They declared that human life was like a dream, where the soul, forgetting its eternal nature, becomes entangled in identities, roles, and desires. The path of yoga, meditation, and inner stillness was not about learning something new, but about stripping away falsehoods to remember the self-Atman, the fragment of the eternal source hidden within. Across the seas, in Greece, the Orphic philosophers echoed the same truth, that the soul falls asleep at birth, entering a cycle of forgetting and rebirth. They believed initiation, the sacred rites performed in mystery schools like Eleusis, was the only way to awaken this lost memory. Through ritual darkness, silence, and symbolic death, the initiate would remember who they were beyond flesh and time. Do you see the pattern? Egypt, India, Greece civilizations separated by oceans, mountains, and centuries, yet all spoke of the same truth, that the human soul is born into forgetfulness. And that remembrance, the forbidden technique, was the key to liberation. But why hide it? Why not share it with everyone? The ancients knew the danger. If given to someone ruled by ego and ambition, this knowledge could corrupt. The ego would not use it for freedom. It would use it for power, control, and superiority. To remember too soon, without preparation, was to risk madness, delusion, or worse. That is why silence was the gatekeeper. That is why these teachings were hidden in temples, passed only to those who had purified themselves enough to withstand the collapse of their false self. Philosophically, this is not a story about gods or myths. It is a story about you, about the veils placed upon your soul from birth, the illusions you inherited from family, culture, and society. The ancients weren't pointing to something far away. They were pointing to the very silence within you, where this forbidden technique still waits, dormant, until you are ready to remember. And so, throughout history, seekers who dared to walk this path were warned. You must first die before you are reborn. Not a physical death, but the death of every mask, every story, every illusion of the self. Only then could the remembrance occur. But what exactly happened inside those hidden temples? What process could strip away identity, collapse illusion, and awaken the soul's eternal memory? That is where we now turn. Imagine this. You are led into a chamber deep within an ancient temple. The walls are thick, shutting out all sound. No light filters through. You are alone in absolute silence, cut off from everything familiar. Why? Because before your soul can remember, it must first forget what it is not. This was the first step of Thoth's forbidden technique, the crossing. The initiate was stripped not of their body, but of their identity. In the silence and darkness, the mind so used to stories, names, roles, and labels began to unravel. The I that clung to being a scribe, a soldier, a mother, a priest, all of it started to collapse. And when the stories fell, the ego fought back. It whispered fears, projected visions, and stirred doubts. Because to the ego, this process is nothing short of death. And though symbolic, it feels very real. Many initiates could not endure it. Some gave up. Some broke under the weight of their own illusions. But those who remained in stillness long enough discovered something extraordinary. Beneath all the noise, there was a silence that had always been there. This silence is not emptiness. It is memory. Not memory of events, but memory of essence. Imagine peeling away layer after layer of dust, only to find a mirror beneath that reflects the eternal self. That is what Thoth and the ancients pointed to. Remembrance not through new knowledge, but through the collapse of everything false. Think about your own life. How many thoughts in your head are truly yours? How many beliefs were handed to you by society, family, religion, culture? You've been programmed since childhood, told what success looks like, what love should be, even who you are. And without questioning, you carried these voices as your own. But Thoth's technique begins with a simple yet radical question. Is this really mine? Or was it placed in me? Every time you ask that, you strike at the chains of conditioning. Every false belief, every implanted story begins to weaken. It's not destruction, it's liberation. Like removing heavy garments you never needed to wear. And what happens then? Silence. At first, it's terrifying. A void where the old self once stood. But stay with it, and you realize the void isn't empty at all. It's spacious. It's alive. It's the waiting ground for remembrance. This is why the ancients used symbols of veils, tombs, and shadow journeys. They weren't describing death as punishment. They were describing the death of illusion, the passage into silence where truth waits. Thoth called the next stage the awakening of the single eye, a perception not tied to your physical eyes or logical mind. It's the moment you stop interpreting and simply see. It's when intuition pierces through appearances, when you sense truth before thought arises. You've likely felt flashes of it before walking into a room and instantly sensing tension, or meeting someone and knowing something hidden behind their words. This is the soul peeking through, a direct perception unclouded by conditioning. The forbidden technique, then, is not about adding mystical powers or secret rituals. It's about subtraction, removing illusions until remembrance emerges. It is simple, but not easy. It is direct, but not comfortable. And yet, it is the only doorway through which the soul can awaken. But this is just the beginning. Because once the silence cracks open and the single eye awakens, something deeper stirs within you, a vibration, a soundless frequency the ancients called the invisible name. And this is where the technique turned from revelation to transformation. And that is where our journey continues. Once the initiate passed through silence and the single eye began to awaken, something remarkable stirred. A vibration. Not a sound you hear with your ears, but a silent resonance you feel with your soul. The ancients called this the invisible name. Unlike the name given to you at birth, John, Asha, Maria, this name doesn't label, confine, or separate you. It isn't bound to nationality, family, or status. It is your soul's unique frequency, your eternal signature in the universe. And here lies the forbidden truth. This soundless vibration has been echoing inside you since the moment your soul first entered existence. Most never hear it. Why? Because the noise of the world, distractions, ambitions, traumas, endless thoughts drowns it out. But the vibration never disappears. It only waits for you to grow still enough, silent enough, honest enough to hear it again. Perhaps you felt it before. That sudden moment of peace when, for no reason, everything feels right, even though nothing outside has changed. That intuition that rises before your mind can rationalize it. That deep pull towards something you cannot explain but know is true. That's the invisible name vibrating within you. But here's the paradox Thoth warned about. Awakening this inner vibration doesn't just bring peace and light. It also dredges up the shadows you've buried. Traumas, fears, forgotten wounds all rise to the surface. Because the soul's light doesn't just illuminate, it exposes. This stage was known as soul purification. Imagine a river clogged with stones, branches, and debris. The water still flows, but its current is blocked. Purification isn't punishment. It's the clearing of what prevents the flow of your essence. To face it, the initiate had to look directly at the parts of themselves they tried to avoid. And here's the danger. Many seekers flee at this stage. They crave the light but resist the shadows it reveals. They grasp at peace while ignoring the pain that peace demands they confront. Without courage, they retreat back into illusion. Worse, some awaken partially and mistake fragments of truth for the whole. This is where spiritual ego is born, the most dangerous illusion of all. Thoth called it the final enemy, not an enemy outside, but a whisper within. The ego, realizing it's losing control, dons a mask of light. It says, "Now you are special. Now you are awakened. You are above others." And many seekers fall here, trapped in superiority disguised as enlightenment. They confuse knowledge with wisdom. They preach light while feeding separation. They judge the asleep and silently crown themselves awakened. This, Thoth warned, is the most seductive trap. Because unlike worldly ego, which is obvious in its hunger for wealth, fame, and power, the spiritual ego cloaks itself in humility, compassion, and sacred words. It pretends to serve truth while secretly feeding pride. So how do you escape this trap? By remembering the essence of the forbidden technique: silence. True remembrance doesn't boast, doesn't impose, doesn't compare. The awakened soul doesn't need recognition. It simply is. And here lies the heart of the paradox. The more you try to grasp remembrance, the further it slips. You cannot force it, cannot chase it, cannot claim it as a title. You can only allow it by dissolving everything false until only presence remains. When this final barrier is crossed, when the ego is seen even in its spiritual disguise, the soul falls into what Thoth called conscious unity, a state where separation dissolves, where there is no seeker and sought, no master and disciple, only being. It is here that remembrance fully awakens, not as an idea, not as a belief, but as a living reality. But what does this mean for us today, in a modern world of deadlines, traffic, and constant distraction? How can you right now begin walking the same path the ancients guarded for millennia? That is where the practical side of this forbidden technique reveals itself. It's tempting to think that such ancient knowledge belongs only in temples, scrolls, or secret initiations. But Thoth's true genius was this: the temple is not a place, it is you. The chambers of silence, the veils, the trials, they all exist within your own consciousness. And the doorway to remembrance is not locked in Egypt, India, or Greece. It is here, now, waiting for you to open it. So, how do you begin? 1. Question the voice in your head. Start with the simplest yet most liberating practice. When a thought arises, "I'm not enough. I'll fail. No one understands me," pause and ask, "Is this really mine, or was it put in me?" You'll be surprised how many of your daily thoughts are inherited. They are echoes of parents, teachers, media, and culture. Every time you question one, you break a chain. This is how the veil begins to thin. 2. Practice 10 seconds of silence. Thoth's disciples were not given lectures. They were given silence. Begin small. Close your eyes and give yourself 10 seconds of absolute stillness. Don't try to achieve anything. Don't chase visions or mantras. Just be. At first, it feels like nothing. But if you remain consistent, you'll discover that silence is not empty. It is full. That fullness is the seed of remembrance. 3. Awaken the single eye. The ancients spoke of a perception beyond the eyes, a direct knowing. You've already experienced it in flashes. That gut feeling, that intuitive certainty. To strengthen it, practice direct observation without judgment. When you walk into a room, when you meet someone, when you notice an emotion, just observe without labeling. The more you observe without attaching stories, the clearer your perception becomes. 4. Face the shadows. Don't flee the invisible name. It doesn't just bring light. It brings your hidden wounds to the surface. When pain, fear, or old memories rise, don't bury them again. Don't run. Instead, acknowledge them. Yes, that happened. Yes, it hurt. But it does not define me. By facing what you've rejected, you purify your soul. Remember, the wound loses its power not when you fight it, but when you embrace it. 5. Guard your inner temple. What you consume shapes your vibration. Every conversation, every video, every headline is like food for your soul. Ask yourself, is this feeding my remembrance or my forgetting? Choose carefully. The ancients purified their temples before initiation. You must purify your inner temple by protecting what enters your mind. 6. Conscious presence in the ordinary. The final practice is deceptively simple. Be where your body is. If you're washing dishes, wash them. If you're walking, walk. If you're speaking, truly listen. Each moment lived in presence becomes sacred. As Thoth taught, remembrance isn't about leaving life. It's about living it so fully that even the ordinary becomes holy. But here comes the challenge. The mind won't surrender easily. It will resist. It will whisper that this is pointless, that silence is wasted time, that intuition is just imagination. This is the ego's last defense, trying to reclaim its throne. When this happens, remember, the test is not waking up, it's staying awake. You don't need to retreat to a monastery or abandon the modern world. The real initiation is living with remembrance in the middle of chaos. When traffic rages, when deadlines crush, when someone provokes you, can you remain silent within? Can you remember your soul in the storm? That is the practice. That is Thoth's forbidden technique, disguised in simplicity yet infinite in depth. And if you commit to it, something begins to shift. Slowly at first, then suddenly. The thoughts that once controlled you lose their grip. The fears that once defined you dissolve. And one day, without warning, you'll feel it, the invisible name vibrating quietly inside, reminding you of who you've always been. Now, with the practices revealed, the question is, where does this journey lead? What happens when remembrance is no longer a fleeting glimpse, but your living reality? That's where we move into the conclusion. So now you know, the forbidden technique was never about grand rituals, golden idols, or cryptic scrolls. It was always about silence, about stripping away everything false until what has always been true can finally shine through. The ancients hid this because they knew the danger. Remembrance is not for the curious, it is for the courageous. To remember who you are is to die to everything you thought you were. It is to stand naked before your own consciousness and face both light and shadow without flinching. Few are ready for that. Few are still endure it. But those who do are forever free. And here lies the greatest secret. When the soul remembers, no system, no belief, no authority can control you. Fear loses its grip. Pain loses its weight. Even the chaos of the world becomes like waves passing over an ocean that remains calm beneath. You don't escape life. You transcend it while still living it. But this journey is not a finish line, not a badge of enlightenment to display. It is a way of being. Thoth himself warned of the final trap, spiritual pride. The ego, even at the threshold of awakening, disguises itself as light. Remember, this true remembrance doesn't boast, doesn't compare, doesn't impose. It simply is. So ask yourself now, are you willing to let go of every mask, every label, every illusion to hear the invisible name vibrating inside you? Are you ready to sit in the silence long enough to remember what you've always been? Because here's the truth. Nothing has ever been lost. Everything you've sought, everything you've longed for, has been quietly waiting within you. You don't need to chase it. You only need to remember it. And when you do, life itself becomes the temple. Every breath becomes sacred. Every moment becomes a reminder. And you, no longer the prisoner of illusion, become the silent witness of eternity flowing through time. That is Thoth's forbidden technique. Not a hidden spell, but a living remembrance. A remembering so profound that once it happens, there is no going back. So now I'll leave you with a question. When the world tries to make you forget, will you choose to remember? If this message stirred something within you, if even a spark of recognition flickered, write in the comments, I am remembering who I am. Let us see how many souls are awakening, one by one, together. And if you're ready to go even deeper, I've chosen the next key waiting for you. Click on the video appearing here and continue this journey with me, because this is only the beginning.